Carin Zissis is the editor-in-chief of America Society and Council of the Americas Online. She's joining us now from Mexico City to discuss this election. Hello to you, Carin. Let's talk about the fact that, this election was historic in so many ways, of course, namely because we're talking about a first female president in Mexico, a first Jewish president in Mexico, but also the sheer size of this election.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This was a massive election because due to a series of political reforms, many elections across the country aligned to be held at the same time. We're talking about 20,000 seats across the country up for election, the entire Congress, and of course the presidency, as well as 9 governorships. Now, her party, Claudia Sheinbaum's party, won by a landslide in not just the presidency. She won by about 30 points. It's important to note that she won by more votes than her predecessor, the person who will be her predecessor, the popular president Andrés Manuel López Obrador. And she won by more votes, a greater portion of the votes, than any other president since Mexico went through a democratic transition. It also is appearing as though her party has won a 2/3 majority in the lower house of Congress, and in addition, potentially close to a 2/3 majority in the Senate. She will come in and have an ability to carry out sweeping changes. And as you mentioned, this is a historic election because she is the first woman president. She will be governing the largest Spanish-speaking country in the world. And given that size of Mexico's population, there are more women in Mexico than even in the second largest Spanish-speaking country in the world. So she will be governing more Spanish-speaking women than anywhere else in the world. So this is indeed a historic election for many reasons.
How much did AMLO have to do with her winning this election? I mean, I guess there are questions on how independent she will be able to be and governing, not being in his shadow.
That has really been a big question as we've gotten closer to the election. She was seen as his chosen successor. She got her start politically in his government when he was mayor of Mexico City, and he is seen as her political mentor. She has repeated over and over, she's pledged a government of continuity. She's pledged to carry on a reform agenda that he laid out this spring, which is important now that we're seeing that Congress will be very likely controlled by Morena. And that's been the big question. To what degree will she sort of go out on her own, walk out under a shadow? It's looking as though we can expect this Moreno movement, the political party, to continue. It's very likely we're going to see some continuity.
And two big issues that come to mind when you think of Mexico as an American is number one is violence and of course immigration. But when it comes to cartel violence, this is a country that has been marred by that for many, many years. That's going to be a huge challenge as she tries to tackle violence. In fact, it was highlighted by the fact that there were 30-some candidates who were vying for public office who were killed since this last summer. What is her plan to crack down?
That's a great question, and we really did see, unfortunately, the impact of organized crime on these elections. There were, as you said, well over 30 candidates assassinated in this election cycle, hundreds more intimidated, threatened. We're going to probably see a continuation of some of his policies, of AMLO's policies. He really expanded the military, expanded the National Guard, this agency that he created that is well over 100,000 strong. And there's been a sort of deep militarization in the country. By that, I mean that the military is involved in everything in terms of infrastructure building, taking care of ports, airports. We might see a continuation of that. That's what she's promised. During her time as mayor of Mexico City, there was a reduction of homicides and certain types of crime. So it'll be interesting to see what different tactics she used in the capital. Mexico City is the biggest city in North America, and how some of those could get transferred over into her policies as president. But we should expect to see similar policies
Right.
to AMLO.
Yeah, carrying on AMLO's legacy. Carin Zissis, good to have you, Editor-in-Chief of America's Society and Council of the Americas Online. Thank you.